Welcome back, everyone, to HTF Bets, your live Thursday show here at Hitting the Field Network. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Caron. We got a great show for you today. We're going to go over NFL Week 3, fantasy football, and since our UCF Knights football team is on a bye week this week, we're going to switch up the letters a little bit and dive into some UFC for segment 3. So stay with us. We got a great show, and it all starts now.
Hit it, boys.
All right, joining me today, as always, are my two co-hosts, Okelo Peña and Riley Sheppard. Boys, Week 2 is in the books. We are in full swing of NFL season and fantasy season. And with that, of course, comes with some injuries as well as COVID. So, Okelo, what's one injury or COVID reserve that is going to really affect your fantasy roster or that NFL team for this week?
Oh, that's a tough question. I'm going to have to start off with just the 49ers running back situation because, again, it just seems like old habits die hard for the 49ers, and just injuries keep coming to bug them up. JaMychal Hasty, Trey Sermon, and Raheem Mostert, and now they have to rely on Kerryon Johnson, who they just signed up from their practice squad, to come now play in this Week 3 matchup. So I don't know what's going on in Santa Clara right now, but I think right now, Kyle Shanahan needs to find some voodoo magic to exorcise the curse of the 49ers injuries, because this is a really talented team that can go far. We all know what the capabilities of this team is, but they need to straighten that out if they want to really compete in the wild, wild west of the NFC West.
Yeah, it is not a good time to be a running back in San Francisco right now. Something's in the water over there in that running back room. Riley, what's one key COVID reserve or injury that came from Week 2 that you're looking for in Week 3?
No, that was a big one. I would like to formally announce that I will be starting for the 49ers this weekend at running back against the Packers. But another one this weekend, from this past weekend, was Tua. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has just been announced a starter. And I think Tua is going to be out a lot longer than a lot of people realize, and that's going to hurt a lot of fantasy values. Broken ribs is not a fun injury to deal with, especially at quarterback. And the Dolphins are in deep trouble. They just got shut out by the Buffalo Bills this weekend, 35-0. And it's trouble down south in Miami.
It's a really talented team that has a great defense, but they need to figure out something on offense. The offensive line is the reason right now. Tua is getting hurt with these injuries, and if they can't get Myles Gaskin going on the running game, I mean, Jason Sanders, he didn't even kick any field goals at all to even give the Dolphins at least a little leeway in points. So I'm definitely feeling the trouble back home in South Florida for sure.
Another one that I think a lot of us are excited for was, I mean, you hate to say it, but Andy Dalton being injured, because that just gave Justin Fields the start for this weekend.
Finally.
We all knew that was going to come. In Miami, Miami's just a train wreck. Obviously, I'm a Patriots fan. They did beat us Week 1, but I don't have high hopes for the Patriots, whereas Dolphins fans, every year they're going to be better than the Patriots and they're going to make the playoffs. Well, that's just not true. Antonio Brown out with COVID this week. Tua out this week versus the Rams. Josh Jacobs and T. Higgins also are questionable with injuries. So those are kind of the biggest injury updates that we have for you guys going into Week 3 of NFL football. So now we're going to dive into some specific games that have some spreads that are just they're just amazing to me. And I'm going to start with mine. Is the Cardinals in Jacksonville going against the Jaguars are only a 7-point favorite. These are the Cardinals that have Kyler Murray, who's the best quarterback in NFL football right now through the first 2 weeks of the season. And his offensive weapons, it's his ability to run the ball, to scramble out of the pocket with those little legs. It just gets me every time. He scrambles out of the pocket, finds space, makes a throw downfield, and it makes it easier when you're throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, who's top 3 fantasy wide receiver in fantasy football.
I digress.
And their defense, it hasn't been great, but how about the Jaguars, who have just been terrible on offense and on defense? This is a team that just gave up 21 points to the Texans and 13 to the Broncos, and they're going against Arizona, who averages 36 points per game through their first 2 games. and are second highest only behind the Bucks, and you're telling me that that's only going to be a 7-point spread? That's a lock. I don't know where's they got the number 7 from for that spread. It should be at least 14.
No, I absolutely agree because like you've hit on all the things, Tyler. I mean, the Jaguars are not sinking right now. I mean, James Robinson is killing me in fantasy. This was been a guy that I had high hopes for, and I was like, he's gonna show Urban Meyer that Travis Etienne was a wasted pick. And at the end of the day, I'm just not seeing the results. It's really disappointing for the Jags. And like you said, I'm surprised that it's that minus of a spread because again, this is a Jaguars team that I don't want to circle back to the past, but this is almost like if you're betting on them circa 2013-14 where it's a double digit at this point. As much as I love Trevor Lawrence, as much as I think that they're going to turn this thing around slowly but surely, just right now, they're just not proving it to be
This is not a good team right now. They can't protect Trevor Lawrence to save their life. My game of the week, though, is Bucks at LA.
The game of the week, America's game of the week.
What amazes me is in Tom Brady's historic career, his first ever game in LA, which is amazing to me. The Buccaneers defense has been a little up and down so far. They've been giving up 27 points per game, 400 yards per game. This is going to be a shootout, but I'm taking the Rams. I know that's a little surprise, but the Rams, it's going to be close, 38-34.
I think the spread, they had the Rams at -1.5 this game. This game is going to be a very tight one. This could be an NFC Championship preview, in my opinion.
These are the two best teams in football right now, for sure.
Updated on DraftKings, it is the Bucks that are favored by 1.5. But the Rams are definitely right there. I wasn't too confident to talk about the spread in this one because I do think the Bucks pull out with this, but I'm not confident enough to give that advice to you guys. But the one thing I will say, the over/under is set at 56. That is going to get blown over.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be
over.
Well, not necessarily because look, the Rams defense is still good. You have Aaron Donald coming after Tom Brady. I hate to say it, but you have Jalen Ramsey, who's so far proven that he might be the best corner in football. I still think Xavier Howard is, but again, that's an opinion for another day. But Jalen Ramsey's still locking down receivers.
He was all over the field last week. It was Jalen Ramsey's performance last week against the Colts was amazing. It was great to watch as a football fan, but they just gave up 24 points to the Colts.
True, but some of those were on special teams, though. Special teams.
And they were. They did have the special teams touchdown, but I still think the 24 points, the Bucks had 2 special teams touchdowns last week, which is pretty exciting to see.
2 defensive touchdowns,
I think the Bucks will blow over that 24-point marker and will creep up against close to the 40s, and then as good as the Bucks have been on defense, then the ups and downs we saw them give up 25 to the Falcons last week. It was a bad third quarter for the Bucks.
It was atrocious if you're a Falcons fan.
They still did give up those points to the Falcons. So I see them as well giving them up against the Rams too.
Yeah. No, 100%. The Rams ended up winning when they played the Bucks last year with Jared Goff as their signal caller. With Matt Stafford, a much better quarterback, he's proven that he fits right in with the Rams, and this is gonna be a great game of the weekend for sure. Yeah. If you have any plans for 425 on Sunday, cancel them right now because this is gonna be a game you cannot miss.
Absolutely, but
sad day to be working.
Let's talk about them Cowboys that you love so much.
Them despicable Dallas Cowboys that I despise with a passion because I was appalled when I looked on Sportsline and I saw that the Dallas Cowboys were -4 against the Philadelphia Eagles, which I think is an absolute shame and a travesty that people think in America on Monday Night Football in Big D that they don't think Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and the Philadelphia Eagles are going to come in and upset. I have the Eagles winning this game. It is going to be a tight game. I really believe it's going to be a tight game. I know you guys are questionable on it, but look, Jalen Hurts has been playing absolutely bananas so far. Look, last week against San Francisco, I mean, granted, it was a tight game, but he made some plays when he needed to. He still has great running back in Miles Sanders and optional. I'm telling you, because everybody knows I can't stand those Dallas Cowboys. And hey, I'm 1-1 in picks, baby. So it just makes it better for sweeter that the Cowboys lose as they always do for me.
But they will not be losing this week versus the Eagles. The Eagles are the definition of a mediocre team, in my opinion. They are outstandingly mediocre. And you're going against the Cowboys, who competed with the Bucks, who have looked like one of the top 5 teams.
What was the
undoubtedly.
last time I checked, though, Tyler? The Eagles have a 4-game win streak against the Dallas Cowboys, dating back since 2019. They have swept them each of the last 2 seasons.
And the Cowboys have been the biggest injury team in football almost, with the key players that have gotten injured. So that's why I think that, yes, that record is there, and that record will end tonight. But that is all the time that we have for our first NFL segment. Stay with us throughout the season. There will be plenty more me and Okelo debate. Coming up, we have fantasy football. We're going to go into some ad drops for this week, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce like regularly?
No.
No.
It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
No, the Buccaneers are going to play the Washington football team.
That can't happen.
It will happen.
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing that, I'm gonna let you finish, but no one would know what this was.
Nitro's dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Why is Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up like something like that, but I will do it.
Oh! Oh my God!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth, if you want to go currently. I feel like that's just like a thing.
he jumped off the wall to catch the home run. We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
I'm never doing this again.
It was rough.
Welcome back to HTF Bets. We are going to now give you an update on how our HDFN host fantasy league has been going. We're going to pull up on the screen here the results from last week, week 2 of our fantasy football league. So to kick it off, Riley Sheppard picks up his first win this last week after I defeated him week 1, going against our executive producer, Johnny Jackson. Alex Funderburk, although it was a close one, he managed to beat Okelo Peña, which is not a very difficult thing to do around here. Kayla Burge gets her first victory of the season, going up against Ross. Kyle DeWitt remains undefeated at 2-0. He defeated Hannah Joe. And then I had to take out our executive producer, or our producer of HTF Bets, Austin, and I won that matchup. So myself and Kyle are the last 2-0 teams in the league after week 2. So it's a really tight league so far. Austin and Nye's week this week was kind of back and forth. You know, he has a loaded roster. He has Patrick Mahomes, and going through it on Sunday, I was kind of back and forth. I didn't feel confident. The projections were showing me I was going to win a lot, and then Aaron Jones came through and had that huge performance. But I felt pretty safe with Aaron Jones, Hawkinson, and DeAndre Swift when I was down 30 heading into that Monday Night Football game. So now we're going to go over, again, waiver wire ad drops. This is huge for fantasy football. Okelo has his top 5 of who you should add this week and who you should be dropping this week. So I'm going to send it over to Okelo.
Thank you, Tyler. Obviously, Alex, he played a good matchup. If Aaron Rodgers had thrown one last pass, the jokes would have been over, but it's okay. Even as I'm wearing Kyle's shirt, we switching it up this week, but it's okay because Kyle's going to give me some of that 2-0 magic that I see. So we had our stuff. But anyway, let's go into some ads and drops. Obviously, Riley got his so incorrect, so allow me to educate everybody on what you need in order to win. I'm going to start off at the top. Cordero Patterson. Let me tell you something. He's been a bit of a gadget on the Falcons offense. I mean, last week he got that amazing shovel pass from Matt Ryan for a touchdown. Even though him and Mike Davis are in a bit of a rotation, this is one of these guys. I mean, the good thing about it in fantasy is that you can plug him in as a running back or wide receiver. And even, hey, he's still doing special teams work. So I like Cordero Patterson. I think he could be somebody that's in your flex option that you could be able to add. Or If you're suffering running back rows or anything like that, Cordell Patterson might not be a bad look at. After all, it is cuffing season right now, so I need to handcuff with some of the guys right now with Mike Davis, so Cordell Patterson is that guy. Let me go up next. Caron Johnson. The 49ers, as I mentioned at the top of the show, bad with injuries, and this guy, Riley's former Detroit Lion, hey, he could still run the rock. He ran it at Auburn pretty well, and this is perfect for anybody. I'm surprised that he's not picked up in most leagues. So if you have Caron Johnson available, this is a great opportunity to steal. The Packers' run D isn't that good. It'll take him some time to get acclimated, but I'm sure that he's going to produce. And then another.
Okay, I want to ask you right there really quick. Is this going to be for a long term, or is it just you need a running back for this week with Caron Johnson?
It might potentially be a long-term thing. We don't know how long Trey Sermon and Jermichael Hasty might be. So like I said, it's cuffing season. So get your points while you can. And speaking of cuffing season, with love. From Dallas with love, Tony Pollard. Last week, he had an amazing game. 100-plus yards against the Chargers' run D. Ezekiel Elliott still having fumbleitis and kind of issues hitting the hole. I wouldn't be too loud about Tony Pollard. Now, this isn't a long-term committed relationship that you need to be in cuffing season with, but I think that right now, if you need somebody to stash away as an RB3 or as a flex, Tony Pollard is going to be that guy. And then to wrap up my last drops, let me give you two guys. First off, Zach Ertz. I'm telling you, a lot of fantasy owners, I've been telling everybody, get Dallas Goedert when you can, because Zach Ertz, he's not going to do much. He's going to be traded by midseason, I promise you. And so far, he's still absent in the Eagles' offense. It still amazes me that he's still on a lot of rosters. If you have Zach Ertz, make some space. Get Tony Pollard or get another quarterback if you need to. And then the guy that Tyler is going to probably talk about to say, give him one more week. But I'm sorry, it's done. Like Drake said, I don't miss, let alone you. So Brandon Ayuk, I don't miss you. You need to go. It is a shame Deebo Samuel is back at full strength and he's eaten up most of the targets for Jimmy G. So until I see something from Brandon Ayuk, sayonara.
You missed that.
What?
That's a blasphemous
Oh,
list, as you
dear
would say.
God.
I'll pull out your word on that one. A blasphemous list. The biggest, I talked about Caron Johnson. Although we don't know how long those San Fran running backs are going to be out, Caron Johnson is a fine option if you are really desperate to plug in a running back for this week and possibly week 4. After week 4, he is going to be
Trey Sermon is out for an undisclosed amount of time. Michael Hasty is out for an undisclosed amount of time.
You mentioned that I'm a Lions fan, and as much as it hurts to admit that, I won't even be picking up Caron Johnson. You touched on fumbleitis. Caron Johnson had fumbleitis at Auburn and continued to into the NFL. He is not somebody that you pick up.
No.
Not at all.
No, Caron can't learn how to carry the ball. If he learns how to carry the ball, then possibly that's someone that I'm looking forward to.
When you come into a Kyle Shanahan offense, you learn how to hold on to the football. That's what he does with all his running backs.
The 49ers offense is very run heavy, but you don't learn that in a week. And they just signed him, yesterday on Tuesday? Who knows if he even plays this weekend?
Stash him away just in case of an emergency. Hello?
No. Okay. So I want to ask you, I'm going to stay in San Fran really quick to talk about your your second drop in Brandon Ayuk. Yes, he is somebody that has not lived up to his his average draft stock this year. However, he is somebody that you absolutely keep on your roster at least for 3 weeks, especially with how toxic that running back room is with injuries, because this opens up a huge opportunity for Deebo Samuel, who's already been pretty great in fantasy, especially in week 2, and Brandon Ayuk to not only get more targets on offense, but to get more jet sweeps and get more rushing yards on the ground, since they're going to go a lot on Caron Johnson this week, who
Deebo
really
Samuel
does
does the exact same thing. He can get the sweeps and everything. He is Jimmy G's #1 target. And when George Kittle gets going, when he hopefully finds his mojo, Brandon Ayuk is basically the missing link on this offense that is not performing at tier level. I'm sorry. After 2 weeks, he had 0 catches. Then he still has that hamstring injury, caught 1 ball for 7 yards. I'm sorry. Like Drake said, it's over. I'm leaving. I'm gone. I'm done with Brandon Ayuk because I can't take it anymore.
Especially their passing game, is going to turn up this week a lot. And they're 2-0. And them getting their passing game going when hopefully all of these running backs come back and hopefully healthy, their running back room will be healthy. The 49ers are a force to be reckoned with. Jimmy G is a pretty underrated quarterback.
I agree.
He's a pretty underrated quarterback.
He's a system guy, but he does his job.
He does his job, and if he can find his mojo, if Brandon Ayuk can find his feet under him, get his hands going, the 49ers are going to be a great team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know another quarterback who's been called a system quarterback and a game manager who Garoppolo got to be an apprentice for a couple seasons in New England a little bit ago. So we're going to go over into our Week 3 matchups here in this league. To kick it off, Johnny Jackson will be going up against Austin Walker. Okelo will be searching still for that first fantasy football win after he goes 0-2 the first 2 weeks.
I have
versus
Kyle's
Kyle
shirt now,
DeWitt.
so I got that 2-0 magic.
Yeah, no, and he's going against the undefeated Kyle. So I'm guessing that Kyle stays undefeated, Okelo stays
What would you
defeated.
place that spread at? I'm saying under 15, over 15.
You dare disrespect me after I nearly beat Alex? It was just 1 point.
That's
Sorry,
fine. It's still
close.
a loss.
Close only counts in cornhole. I'm
Right,
sorry.
Still a loss in the record book. Moving on, Ross Bernstein going up against Riley Sheppard. Kayla Burge going up against Hannah Joe. We have the lovely ladies of Girls on Deck competing against each other this week. That'll be a good one to watch. And finally, my matchup, I will now be going against Alex Funderburk. And just so everybody knows, in the complete standings, I am the official #1 right now because of the 2-0 teams. I have the most points scored for myself. So it should be another exciting week in fantasy. That's all the time that we have right now for this fantasy football section. Join us next. We'll stay with us now for segment 3. Next week, we will keep on going, keep you updated. Will Okelo get a win? Probably not. If he does, then we will throw a party here at HTF Bets to celebrate his first win. But stay with us. We have UFC fights coming up right after this.
Here's the story of a show creator who was gearing up to form a bigger crew. One's a California guy,
A god of graphics.
One hosted Girls on Deck.
It's a story of a 4-year nightmare, which is finally coming to an end. Thank God.
And the new kid, a Packers lover.
Tampa forever. So then one day all these people work together to face a year unlike one that's ever been. And his group rebranded in Orlando. That's the way we all became HTFN. 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 That's the way we became HTFN. That's blasphemy!
Welcome back, everyone. As I said, opening up the show today, our UCF football team, which is usually our third section, is on a bye week after they'll be recovering from that Cincinnati loss. So we decided to switch up the letters a little bit. We're going to introduce for the first time, and we're going to talk about UFC fighting. Now, we have a big weekend coming up in UFC, and it was only appropriate to bring in our expert on fighting here at HTF, Johan Blanco. Johan, how pumped are you for the fights this weekend?
Guys, let me tell you, anytime we're talking about fights, it's the best week of my life. So, I'm ready.
All right, yeah, Johan is the man. He has his own fighting podcast. He has a ton of experience and a ton of interest in fighting. So he is our guy this segment. So to kick it off, the main event, we got the featherweight fight of Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega. Volkanovski comes in as the -170 favorite with Ortega at a +150. Johan, what are your thoughts about these spreads and the end results?
Guys, well, the UFC Featherweight Championship main event is probably the most exciting fight of the card. The UFC Featherweight division is the most stacked division in the UFC right now, and Alexander Volkanovski is probably my favorite fighter in the entire roster. Alexander Volkanovski is a very technical fighter. He is a smart technician. He plays chess instead of checkers, and he has a Muay Thai background that he uses to keep people at a distance. He uses his lead leg kicks to stabilize and neutralize people's mobility, and it is a close fight. It is really a close fight. As for Brian Ortega is a really phenomenal challenger. He is a creative striker as well, but that's not where his strength is at. His strength is actually in jiu-jitsu. So what he does well is he's able to fight on the bottom. When you're in his guard, you're basically done for. The man has a black belt under the legendary Henry Gracie, and if he gets you in a triangle, it is over. But the spread is really close, and as it should be, because these guys are the best in the division. They're the best two fighters in the toughest division in the UFC currently.
Okelo, I heard a little disagreement, a little something out of you when Johan was going on.
Well, it was just like I agree with Johan with everything he said. Volkanovski, pound for pound, has been one of the kings in the UFC featherweight division. I know it's been a while for Ortega because he's dealt with his injuries, of course, but I look back to a fight that he had against then champion Max Holloway, and he was in a grappling. It was a submission type of thing. Ortega needs to get back to that form of submission techniques while also finding that balance of strikes and be able to take down his opponent. I know it's not his game, but he did it in the last fight. I mean, his new identity is a blood and guts warrior, where he's going to pound for pound mat you and probably drive you into the ground for TKO. As much as I want to think Ortega's going to win this fight, because usually I try to go for the underdogs in this type of matchup, I just think Volkanovski, he's on a different level right now. Obviously, we've waited for this because UFC 260, we had the COVID issue with it. So we waited a long time for this fight, but right now I just have to temper my expectations. But I think Ortega, if he can get that balance back, book it. Like, he could potentially get this by the 4th round if necessary.
Okay, look, here's the thing. If Ortega fights how he fought in the last fight, he is going to lose. Because in his last fight against Chan Sung Jung, the Korean zombie, Chan Sung Jung is not as polished as a striker as Max Holloway is, and especially Alexander Volkanovski. So if he tries to get in a striking matchup, or if he tries to lead in with his striking, he's going to get countered very easily.
No,
he has to
Ortega
implement his jiu-jitsu. He has to mix it up very well. If he tries to get creative like that, I'm telling you, Alexander Volkanovski is going to win.
If you're a king of submission, Johan, and Ortega's been able to add that to his game and be able to be the blood and guts fighter that he's adapted his game. You don't see many UFC fighters. They usually have one style and that's it. Ortega has changed around his game. And now with that blood and guts with the submission where you can pile drive somebody, look, all that Muay Thai and stuff, like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get smacked in the first round. And just watch as Ortega with his early hits, when you're a blood and guts fighter, if you fight like you're in the street, you're not going to have all that plan. So all that Muay Thai crap goes out of the way. And I'm telling you right now,
that's funny you say that, because in his last fight against Max Holloway, he got clipped a lot. He set a record for getting landed that much.
Round TKO,
he had a plan.
He still won in the 4th round TKO.
He had a plan.
Right.
And he got hit like 500 times.
Right. So
that's what I'm saying.
It seems that for this fight in particular, we have a lot of different opinions here, different styles. How did those styles compare? That we will see Saturday night. We're going to move on to the co-main event, the women's flyweight championship fight, Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. Shevchenko comes in at a huge favorite at minus 1,500 with Murphy at a plus 850. Johan, does Murphy have any business in this fight? I know she said back in June, stop overlooking me, I am the true #1 contender. But does she have any business being in this fight?
Well, she definitely deserves to be in this fight. She is currently on a 5-fight winning streak, and she is the most viable contender in this flyweight division currently. But let's be honest, Valentina Shevchenko is the modern-day Demetrius Johnson. And what I mean by that is that her dominance upon a division is heads over anybody else, any other champion on the roster. And the talent differential is different. And she just levels above everybody else. Her Muay Thai is better. She has a really strong wrestling game. And listen, Lauren Murphy is tough. She's a grinder. She is able to, push the pace, but she's a generalist. She's solid everywhere, but she doesn't have any real strong suits. Whereas Valentina Shevchenko, her strong suit is in striking and in wrestling. So she has the superior advantage anywhere the fight goes.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of on and let me know if you disagree, but I think that it's not if Shevchenko will win, it'll be how fast does she win it.
Exactly.
The current over-under is set at 2.5, and the last 5 TKO and submissions that she's had have been by the early 3rd round. So if she does take her out in the fight and it doesn't go to a decision, then that's kind of a perfect number for betting-wise. That's why Vegas is so good. these have been early in the third round. So what are you guys' thoughts about that? Does that go over or under 2.5 rounds?
I think it might go, Riley, excuse me. I think it might go over 2 rounds because I look at Lauren Murphy and how much she's changed her style and her fighting ability. I mean, she dropped to 125 in the bantamweight division, and that's helped her career. She's battled against more like strength size foes, but she has a lot of stamina, a lot of gas in the tank, and I think that's basically different than what you could say for her fighters. She just got to get her inner Randy Couture in, man. And I'm telling you, once she gets it in, it's going to be a long steamroll for Shevchenko. It won't be a 2-round fight by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I agree. It's going to be a lot longer. Maybe not a lot longer, but it's definitely not going to end in the first or second round. Like Johan said, Lauren Murphy is a tough fighter. She is not going to go down easy, and I'm still taking Shevchenko, but I would say in the early fourth.
Early fourth? Okay. So now what might be, although it's not one of the main events, one of the prelims, one of the most interesting fight is Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. Diaz returns to the ring for the first time in five years, if I'm not mistaken, for his first official fight. I see I see Johan just getting ready to talk about this. So Johan, I'm going to throw it right over to you.
Guys, I know I said that the main event is what I'm most excited for, but the return of Nick Diaz is probably the biggest thing that I'm waiting for this Saturday. It is the first fight in 6 years. His last fight was in 2016 in January against Anderson Silva, where it ended up being a no contest. But when you talk about Nick Diaz, you're talking about arguably one of the greatest runs outside of the UFC in welterweight history. He was the former Strikeforce.
Have Cardinals -7 at Jags. Take it. You're not going to regret it. Riley.
I say Liberty will clear the spread against Syracuse.
Okelo.
Chiefs -6.5 over the Chargers.
And Johan.
Okelo's losing his 3rd straight game.
Oh, how dare you! How dare you! How dare you! How dare you!
If you take one bet this week, it should be that
one.
one.
It
should
be
that
one's gonna be
What?
All right, that's all the time that we have for today's HTF Bets episode. Thank you all for joining us. Next week, we will give you the updates on everything we predicted this week.
And when I come back to win, I'll hopefully get my apologies.
All right, and we will see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Catch you later, knuckleheads.